Both Cleveland and San Diego are having significant issues on both sides of the ball, and they'll meet in week 4. San Diego right now is a 7.5-point home favorite, and we'll discuss possible betting value with Joe Duffy from OffshoreInsiders.com. I'm Peter Loshak. You're watching SBR Videos. Joe Duffy, Cleveland having a lot of issues, so I can understand why they'd be a big underdog. San Diego is also having a lot of issues. That has me scratching my head a little bit at just how big this line is. Their defense is looking pretty leaky overall, and their offensive line is just not getting it done. That's preventing them from having a big passing game or an effective running game. Of course, Cleveland having their own issues. McCown was okay last week, but he had a concussion 2 weeks ago, so he's always injury prone. And then if Manziel comes in, could be a disaster. Although he could play well. The running game was supposed to be a big strength for Cleveland this year, and that hasn't happened. But still, adding it all up, 7.5 points feels like a lot to me, Joe.
Yeah, the Browns did want to be a run-first team. Part of the reason isn't so much they haven't had success. It's when you're playing from behind, it's a little tougher to run the ball. And, of course, you're not stopping the run. But, again, that's because that they're playing from behind. So teams are going to tend to want to run the ball against them. As far as the big line, I'm not all that surprised. Remember, it's a term that I use so often in many of my videos. And high on the list, I've been talking about Phillip Rivers for years. Predictably unpredictable. He's off of consecutive losses. This is where he can be dangerous. He usually manages to bounce back. Now, that being said, that the predictably unpredictable theory truly says when these guys are underdogs, which in this case he's not, is when they really become a high percentage play. Still, I do look for him to bounce back. And again, so many of our systems in the NFL do say the teams will regress to the mean, and the mean really defined by the odds makers, the mean that they set for them. And essentially, there are quite a few systems that say teams as big favorites coming off of big losses, big margins of a loss, are good plays. Now, that being said, admittedly, if the odds maker said this game was more of a mismatch, in other words, if it were more like a 10.5-point spread, the Chargers would be an even better play. But still, favorites of more than a touchdown off of big losses are big plays here. I really think that it's time for Cleveland. McCown is what he is. It's an old cliche, but it's true. He's a bottom rung quarterback. He's maybe at best right around the number 30 quarterback in the league. I think at least with Manziel, you have an upside. I'm not so sure why they're sticking with him. Granted, he did look pretty good in the second half last week, but all in all, I do think that San Diego will likely bounce back because Phillip Rivers always seems to, like the old 80s one-hit wonder, the one-hit wonder from the 90s, I guess, get knocked down, get up again, nobody going to keep him down, and this is usually when he bounces back.
All right. Yeah, I don't know. I'm thinking that 7.5. I mean, I hear everything you're saying, Joe. I mean, it's, the Vegas knows that San Diego's having all these issues and they're coming off of such a big loss. So why then did they set the line at 7.5? And that speaks to all the, the past stats, the data that you just cited. I'm also thinking about the under, right? It's 45. Even though Cleveland hasn't been that effective running the ball, you got to figure they're going to stick with that game plan. And San Diego does have a weapon with Gordon. They'll probably use him in this one as well. What about the under 45?
I might agree with that. In fact, I think Josh Gordon's probably one of the more underrated weapons in the league. He appears to be for real, giving some balance to that San Diego offense. And I do agree with you that I don't think, much like, with Chip Kelly, hasn't had as much success passing the ball. He's not going to abandon the game plan. And I think in Cleveland with Pettin, he definitely wants to run the ball. He's not going to abandon that. And if he can get a good opportunity to run the ball, that is, keep a game close, the under would be a good play. And I would say, if anything, if maybe Cleveland is winning at halftime, take a long look at the under in the second half.
All right, well, my leans on this game would be to Cleveland, despite everything that Joe Duffy said, and stronger to the under 45. Joe, is this going to be a pass for you, or do you want to grace us with an official pick here?
I don't think I want to quite grace you with an official pick because, as I said, the predictably unpredictable theory works much better when the guy we're looking to bounce back is a big underdog and not a big favorite. So I will make it a pass.
All right. Well, I think I'm liking the under, and actually I wouldn't be surprised this one closes around 43.5 by kickoff, but we'll see. Officially, it's going to be a pass for Joe Duffy. And Joe, tell us what OffshoreInsiders.com is all about, your website where you give your top picks every day and every week in football.
Yeah, for you young folks out there, I've been picking winners publicly since 1988 on the score phones. You will see the quality of intel in the analysis. Big plays already up for this weekend. It's been a great year in football. Again, all the details about our records, etc., at OffshoreInsiders.com.
Okay, thanks so much for your thoughts this week, Joe.
Thank you, Peter.